The noise is everywhere. It is a relentless, invisible tide that rises the moment you open your eyes in the morning. It screams from the screen in your pocket, demands attention from the obligations on your calendar, and echoes in the hollow spaces of your own anxieties. You feel it, don't you? That sensation of your mind racing at 1,000 miles an hour while your wheels spin in the mud. You find yourself talking more than you mean to, explaining yourself to people who aren't listening, and agonizing over variables you cannot touch. In a world that mistakes a quick opinion for intelligence and a knee-jerk reaction for strength, it is dangerously easy to lose your footing. Men today are burning out not because they are doing too little, but because they are trying to process too much. We are scattered, fragmented, and disconnected from our own center of gravity. But there is a cure, an ancient antidote to this modern poison, and it does not require you to do more. In fact, it demands that you do less. It demands that you strip away the excess, the noise, and the pretense until only the iron core of your character remains. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, figured this out centuries ago under the pressure of wars, plagues, and tyrannies. They understood that real strength is not about shouting louder than the chaos. It is about cultivating a silence so profound that the chaos cannot touch you. The transformation begins with a radical shift in how you view the architecture of your own mind. We are conditioned to believe that our thoughts are synonymous with the truth. A shadow creeps into your head, a doubt about your competence, a fear of the future, a replay of a past mistake, and immediately you treat it as a fact. You let a passing sentence in your brain become a verdict on your soul. "I am not good enough," your mind whispers. "Everything is going to fall apart," it suggests. Before you know it, your pulse is racing and your mood is shattered, all because of a phantom. But thoughts are not facts. They are merely events. Epictetus famously noted that it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about those things. Imagine your mind as a busy train station. Every thought is a train rolling through the platform. Some trains carry cargo of regret, others carry fear, and some carry anger. Most men, unaware of their own power, frantically try to board every single train that passes. They get on the anger train and ride it until they are exhausted. They hop on the anxiety train and let it take them miles away from the present moment. The Stoic discipline is the ability to stand on the platform, hands in your pockets, and simply watch the trains go by. You do not have to board them. You do not have to lay your body on the tracks to stop them. You simply observe. There is a thought about failure, you say to yourself, creating a critical distance. By labeling the thought, you strip it of its power. It is no longer you, it is just a passing cloud, smoke that will clear if you refuse to feed the fire. This is not about suppressing negativity or forcing a fake smile. It is about recognizing that you are the sky, not the weather. You are the space in which the thoughts occur, and you retain the absolute veto power over which thoughts you choose to nurture and which you allow to drift away into the dark. Once you begin to master the internal noise, you must turn your attention to the noise you project into the world. There is a pervasive myth that the man who speaks the most holds the power. We live in an era of the hot take, where silence is viewed as weakness or ignorance. But the opposite is true. The ego loves the sound of its own voice. It wants to have the last word, to explain, to justify, to clap back at every slight. But a soul that is truly strong has no need to justify itself to anyone.
Recall the most powerful man you have ever met. It is likely not the loudmouth dominating the conversation or the frantic energy of the man trying to prove his worth. It is the man who is comfortable in silence. It is the man who listens, who watches, and who speaks only when his words can strike with the precision of a chisel on stone. When you respond to every provocation, You are handing your energy over to the world. You are letting other people dictate your emotional state. If someone insults you and you immediately fire back, they own you in that moment. They pulled a string and you danced. Choosing silence is an act of defiance. It is a way of reclaiming your sovereignty. It gives you the upper hand because while everyone else is revealing their cards, you are holding yours close. This is not about being passive. It is about being strategic. It is about measuring your words like a fighter measures his punches. An extra word can unravel a negotiation. A reactive comment can destroy a relationship. But silence? Silence never betrays you. It buys you time to think, to process, and to respond from a place of reason rather than emotion. When you stop scrambling to fill the air with sound, you force the world to come to you. You create a vacuum that draws respect. In the quiet, you become a presence that does not need to be announced. However, this internal and external quiet is only the foundation. The structure must be built on the most brutal and liberating principle of Stoic philosophy, the dichotomy of control. There are moments when life feels like a concerted attack. The deal falls through, the relationship ends, the health scare becomes real. In the face of this, most men crumble or look for someone to blame. They waste endless energy screaming at the storm. The Stoic looks at the wreckage and asks a single cutting question. What is in my power? You cannot control the economy. You cannot control the opinions of others. You cannot control the past, and you cannot fully guarantee the future. You can only control your own reasoned choice, your response. Think of yourself as the captain of a ship on a violent sea. You cannot command the wind to stop blowing. You cannot order the waves to flatten. If you scream at the ocean, you are a fool. But you can control the rudder. You can control the sails. You can control the discipline of the crew. When you stop wrestling with the variables that are out of your hands, a massive weight lifts off your shoulders. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become a master of your own trajectory. There is a story of a man who lost his business, a venture he had poured 2 decades of his life into. For months, he was paralyzed by the injustice of it, drowning in bitterness. He was trying to fix the past. Then he applied this principle. He took a piece of paper and drew a line down the center. On one side, he wrote, "Things I cannot change," and he listed the bankruptcy, the market shift, the loss of status. On the other side, he wrote, "Things I can do today." He listed his workout, his resume, his attitude, his integrity. He poured 100% of his energy into the second column. He didn't just rebuild his finances, he rebuilt his soul. He realized that while he couldn't choose the hand he was dealt, he could choose how to play it with absolute precision. This level of focus requires you to become a guardian of your own attention. Your mind is fertile soil. It will grow whatever you plant there. If you plant resentment, if you replay old arguments, if you dwell on the person who wronged you 5 years ago, you are tending a garden of poison. You are actively choosing to stay in a prison where the door is unlocked. The past is a ghost. It cannot hurt you anymore unless you invite it back in.
Growth requires a ruthless redirection of focus. It means catching yourself when you drift into the what-ifs and the if-onlys, and dragging your mind back to the right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations in the dust and grime of military campaigns, surrounded by death and betrayal. Yet he constantly reminded himself to focus only on what was essential, to clear away the clutter of the mind. This is not a gift you are born with. It is a muscle you build. Every time you stop a spiral of negative thinking and redirect your energy toward a book, a workout, or a project,
You are doing a rep. You are strengthening your mental resolve. You are deciding that your attention is too valuable to be squandered on things that do not serve your mission. But to truly move forward, you must eventually confront the most difficult hurdle: acceptance. Not resignation, but radical acceptance of what is. We suffer not because of what happens, but because we are fighting against reality. We want our fathers to be different. We want our partners to never change. We want our careers to be linear. When reality deviates from our fantasy, we break. There is a profound freedom in dropping the rope. Consider the man who spends his life chasing his father's approval, trying to be the perfect professional, the tough guy, the success story, only to realize the approval is never coming. He is a slave to a ghost. True liberation comes when he looks at the situation and accepts it fully. He cannot give me what I need, and that is okay. In that moment of acceptance, he stops begging. He starts validating himself. He realizes that he doesn't need permission to be a man. He just needs to be one. Acceptance is the bedrock of resilience. It allows you to look at a failure and say, "This happened. It is part of my story. Now what can I build from the ashes?" It turns obstacles into raw material. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" You stop waiting for life to be fair and start playing the game as it actually exists. Finally, you must create the space for this wisdom to take root. You must embrace silence, not just in your speech, but in your environment. We are terrified of boredom. We fill every second with podcasts, music, scrolling, and chatter because we are afraid of what we might hear if the noise stops. But you cannot know yourself if you never meet yourself in the quiet. You need a sanctuary. It doesn't have to be a mountaintop. It can be 5 minutes in your car before you walk into the house. It can be the early morning hours before the world wakes up. In that silence, the sediment of the day settles, and the water becomes clear. You can see what is actually bothering you versus what is just surface noise. You can see where you are lying to yourself. You can hear your own intuition, which is usually drowned out by the roar of expectations. A man who cannot sit in a room alone with his thoughts is a man who is running from himself. But the man who can sit in the silence, who can face the void without reaching for a distraction, is unshakable. He knows who he is. He has confronted his demons and realized they are just shadows. The path of the Stoic is not complex, but it is hard. It requires you to think less about what others are doing and more about who you are becoming. It requires you to talk less so that your words carry the weight of truth. It requires you to focus more on the few things that actually matter and let the rest burn. This is a quiet power. It doesn't need to strut or brag. It is the power of the captain holding the wheel in the storm, eyes fixed on the horizon, ignoring the waves crashing over the bow. It is the strength of the man who knows that the world can take his money, his status, and even his freedom, but it can never take his ability to choose his own mind. So the next time the chaos rises, do not engage with it on its terms. Step back, breathe, watch the trains go by without boarding them. Keep your counsel, grip the rudder of the things you can control, and let go of the rest. In a world of noise, be the silence. In a world of reaction, be the purpose. That is where your freedom lies. That is where you take back your life.